Karon Shaiva, founder of Idobro and Rise Infinity Foundation. We are a hybrid organization because I believe that you need all kinds of solutions to really solve some of the world's most pressing issues. So therefore, we have Idobro, which is a mission-driven for-benefit organization that really works on three verticals, which is on citizenship, entrepreneurship, and partnership, which are what we believe the human-centric solutions to the world's problems, right? And on the other hand, we have Rise Infinity Foundation, which is a trust and which works on what we call ownership, where we help people to take ownership of their issues and try and find solutions. So help them find solutions for their problems. My mother has, of course, played a very big role in my life. She was that person who never knew no, who never knew what it was to stop or give up. So I think that's one thing I definitely have been influenced by her, that you never give up. You will always be able to find an answer and a solution if you look at things positively. On the other hand, in terms of the social sector itself, I think my work and the church, right? So you're always encouraged to give back, to help others. So therefore, I was always a volunteer when it came to church activities for youth, which was a really nice thing because it really set the foundation for a lot of volunteering that I did later in my life. But also in school, we used to have this program called the SUPW, so Socially Useful Productive Work. And I can never forget that because we were made to do a lot of, take on social initiatives for which we could get marks. So it was not just about, be nice, do something good, but do something really which you would get, where your performance would actually get graded, right? And I think that again kind of set the foundation for me to realize that you can do well, by doing good. So it's a combination of both. So yeah, both these are. No, in church it was pure volunteering, right? Volunteering initiatives. While in school it was this program, right? So you get marks for them. So you learn both. One is volunteering pro bono without expecting anything in return. But in school, you learn that you can do something good for others and also gain something back because you're getting marks for it, right? So I thought that was a great sustainable model, and that's what you see right now in my organizations as well. We are a hybrid organization that does pro bono work a lot in one way, but we also do a lot of sustainable work in the other. Yeah, so I've gone through 7 industries. So engineering was just the first, right? Technology, IT industry was just the first of the 7 that I went through. And I always tell everybody that, think transferable skills, right? At the end of the day, yes, you have technical knowledge, you need domain expertise, but you also have transferable skills. And if you're willing to learn, then nothing can stop you from really switching industries as long as you create value. Right at the end of the day, you have to be a valuable asset. I mean, that's a no-brainer, I guess. So I started as obviously computer engineer, worked in the IT industry, worked right from hardware to software to ERP solutions, all of that and more. But very quickly, my life changed very dramatically, personally, actually, because of which I had to actually give up my career. And take a really sharp break, so to speak, in my life, and that really got me rolling in terms of thinking of what are my other options. So I think for any budding entrepreneur or any young person who's looking to create their careers, I think there are so many different factors that come into your life. So you would take decisions based on that, but never be afraid of something you don't know or you've never done before, because it's just a matter of the mindset all the time. So, in fact, my personal story is covered in the Chicken Soup series, the Indian Women's Soul, okay? And the title of it is actually Pause and Twist. Because I think so many times in my life, there have been some very, very life-defining moments, I would say, where I had to actually take a kind of just stop and think it through, and more often than not, I have completely changed my trajectory, or changed my life decisions. So taken life decisions that have really changed a lot in our lives. Yeah, like I told you, my mother. Yeah, we've had. Our family life has been fairly. Again, maybe because of who she was and what I am now, like her, that always looking for new experiences, always doing different things, has really led us to have a very, very, what should I say, diverse life, right? So I'm born in India, brought up in Africa. I have lived in the US, in Europe, and in Japan. So I think same thing happened even in my childhood, right? So I think with so much of changes happening, like change was a constant in our life, right? So when you're looking at so much of change happening, and you see that a person is able or willing or capable of, taking on those changes and working with it in the most positive manner, I think you learn a lot of lessons from that. And I think that's what I picked up. Yeah. For me, success means different things at different times. But ultimately, it is about whether you have done your best and achieved what you were hoping for. So, for me, success is my own yardstick. I have never, and this is my advice to most entrepreneurs, to most people, leave alone this thing, that it's a one horse race. Yeah. You cannot compare yourself with anybody else, because their life is very different from your life. Even if you're running the very same race together, even if it's the very same race together, you have no clue what it has taken that person to reach this race. And you have no clue what that person is going to do after this race, no matter what the result is, right? We know of enough of champions who have quit immediately after winning something. Are you going to quit? No, it's not your last race. So why compare yourself with that person? So for me, success has always been about whether I have done my best and if I've achieved what I have hoped to achieve. So, I am obsessed with being different. Okay. As I said, I never looked at comparing or looking at what somebody else is doing. If at all I do it, it's to make sure that I'm not doing the same thing. Yeah. So with that obsession of being different, what happens more often than not, people don't understand you. People don't understand what you're trying to do. People don't get the picture that you're trying to paint, right? Because there's nothing like saying, oh, it's like that. So if it is not like that, then it becomes really, really difficult. And so invariably, you may not get the kind of support you want. People may, in fact, discourage you more often than not from doing what you want to do. So when you're doing something new, right, different, where you don't have something to show as a analogy, people obviously find it very difficult to understand. They don't see the picture you're painting, right? They don't get it. And in that situation, more likely, they're not going to support you. If anything, they're going to discourage you from doing it too, right? And so that becomes a huge challenge with wanting to do things differently or doing unique things. So I've faced this more often than not. One of the biggest has been the Rise World Summit, which is something that we felt was giving back to society, giving back to the people we work with, and creating a platform that would really help people who we really don't know, but we knew had value for them. And as an ecosystem builder, you never can show impact immediately. It's always long term. In an ecosystem, you cannot show how relationships build up because you may not be a part of it, right? These small things keep happening here and there, which you have no clue about. But you know that in an ecosystem, this is what's going to happen if you help support it and build it, right? And so every time we look for support for it, it would be really, really difficult because anybody would want to say, what is going to be the impact now? And that's difficult to show. That's one example that I can, show right off. And we've been now doing it for 9 years, right? It's been a long, long journey making this happen. And today, I think we can very proudly say, and many people see the impact we are creating, understand the value of what we're doing. But the first 3 years were exceedingly difficult. I even lost my own teammates, right, who said, what are you trying to do with this? So that becomes really, really difficult. I think the other part of the whole sustainability angle of being a social entrepreneur is that you want to ensure that you yourself walk the talk and that you are sustainable. So I don't think there is any social entrepreneur who is successful now who can claim that they did not get the support of somebody or the other, whether it was family, friends, grant, subsidy, something that helped them get started. But more often than not, they want to say, no, we are sustainable. We don't take grants, we don't take subsidies. That's not true. And I think it puts an unbelievable amount of pressure on social entrepreneurs. And same was with me. I was so pig-headed that I would no, I do not want to look for any kind of support or grants. I'm going to make it sustainable, right? And it took us so long to get started because of that. We could not take even sponsorship. Forget about, we were grant free, subsidy free, even sponsorship free, right? Investor free too, right? Just because we wanted to prove a sustainable model. And it has costed us. There's no two ways about it. When we started our foundation, again, when you work on principles and values, it can be very, very hard. And when we started our foundation, we had a very difficult time getting our compliances done. And to the point where I almost decided to shut down, literally. I mean, we had come down to some 57,000 rupees, I remember, and saying, this is it. We need to shut it down. We can't do this anymore. And then the pandemic happened. And literally from a 57,000 budget for a year, right? We are now, we went doing over to 3 crores in a year. That's an unbelievable jump to manage operations, right? And I think, again, as I said, you have to just stay the course, I think. And sometimes, and you can feel down and you may want to quit and you may, as I just said, but ultimately you have to be open to ideas as well and believe in yourself. So you'll be surprised that, there are many high profile social entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, who, because they want to be seen as an entrepreneur and not a social organization or an NGO, okay, will refuse to acknowledge that they got grants of any kind, because they want to prove or want to claim that we did it on our own. And this puts so much pressure on new entrants, right? Because they then feel, oh, I can't take a grant. Things have now changed a lot, I think, where the whole hybrid model and the whole, because also donors have started giving money. A lot more donors have started giving money as grants to social enterprises, which is not the case before. Before, it was very clear you had to be an NGO to get a grant, right? So there'd be very few social entrepreneurs who would have got grants, but they would have got support from other people, right? Even if it was not grants, but they would not like to acknowledge that because they said, oh, ours is a sustainable model. So I think one of the most important things that I think we have kind of done is, create models that allow people to actually replicate. What do I mean by that, right? I think in our world, there are 2 S's that we kind of focus on: scale and sustainability, right? I believe there's a need for the third S, which is very, very critical and be far more impactful than what we try to do at this point. And that is spread. Yeah. So what do I mean by spread? If you look at scale, yes, of course, we need to do as much scale as we possibly can, okay, do ourselves. Sustainability, of course, again, so that you have long-term viability. But beyond a point, no organization, okay, or let me correct that. Very few organizations can scale so rapidly and so big that they do not implode, right? And all don't have a mission drift, right? So if that is the case, then the best way is to take good, successful models and replicate them. Try and spread those kind of best practices, rather than it being the same people over and over again who win all the awards, who get all the grants, who get all the funding, right? And that's where donors need to think a little bit more, that can these people actually absorb the kind of money that we are giving them. Of course, as I gave my own example, from managing a 57,000 budget in a year to moving to 3 crores is a huge jump, right? But how many can actually do it? And even I did not do it alone. It was because we had fantastic partners, and we've always believed in collaboration, which we could do it by bringing in so many great partners to help us with that, right? That's how we did it. And so it's the same thing. If we have to look at really sustaining great ideas and scaling them up, then we need to scale them up not just through expansion, which could be one way to do it for sure, but more importantly through spread and replication. I think that will have far more sustainable impact. So our models are all around these concepts of collaboration, replication, partnerships, alliances, right? So that's one thing I think, and that's we call it the PicoNet, okay, and which is what the Rise World Summit creates, the PicoNet world community, right? People who believe in collaboration, people who believe in citizenship, people who believe in entrepreneurship, right? So these are some of the concepts that I think firstly we have tried to do, yeah, and which we believe kind of leads to what we say, peace, positive lives and peaceful societies, right? So this is one big thing that we are trying to say. So on one hand, Idobro tries to design solutions and delivers them, but on the other hand, Rise Infinity Foundation facilitates and provides a platform for others to take ownership and take these ideas forward in the way that they would like to do it. Other than that, I think, on a personal level as well as an organization, I think we are very clear that we design our programs and do them irrespective of whether we get funding or not. And, God is great, but somehow we always manage to do it. Funding is the last thing we worry about once we start deciding to do something. And somehow the other, whether it is, and that's another thing about funding, I think, many people get very caught up about the financial part of getting resources to do something. I constantly tell people, look at, in-kind resources. You'll be amazed at how much you can get done if you don't ask people for cash. Ask them for resources in kind. A very simple example is the second wave, right? Where we don't even have ATG. Okay, so I can't even take money. Even if people want to give me, I can't even take it, right? If ATG is a prerequisite. And so when we were working on the second wave and we were looking at collecting, trying to raise resources for the second wave, especially for all the oxygen, because we were working with the government and the, public health department, National Health Mission and everybody. It was simply amazing how much people responded when we said, we don't want money. We just want you to give us the equipment itself. You can source it, you can buy it, you can decide where it is coming from, right? And we were working with UNICEF on the system strengthening with the government. We said all we want to ensure is that it goes to the right place and that we give you the right information of where it requires to be, where it is really, really required. Similarly, we told the government, all we want is for transparency and openness in the process so that we can assure the donors that the equipment is going to the right hospital where it is actually required. We all know that there are tons of equipment and oxygen concentrators that are remaining today where nobody had any takers. It was really sad, right? So much of money. We raised 15 crores ourselves, by ourselves, without any other partners or any other part of coalition, just by ourselves. We raised 15 crores in kind. We had only about 2 lakhs that went through our bank account. Rest, everything went direct through procurement and supplies to the hospital. So you don't always need to have cash. You can do a lot and create a lot of impact even through in kind. The other is pro bono. There are so many people who are willing to support you. Our whole Rise World Summit survives and thrives only because of the unbelievable contribution of our experts and partners who come on board. And all of this is pro bono time. We have over 200 experts. Our last Rise World Summit that is held this year in Jan, we had over 4,000 participants from 61 countries and more than 200 experts who contributed their time to the design and delivery of the Rise World Summit with over 100 hours of programming. So you can do a lot even without money. You just have to think positive, think abundance, and it happens. And I think the last thing that we all do, and my whole team is encouraged to do, is mentoring. So we do a lot of mentoring with youth, with entrepreneurs. We are all part of organizations and associations. Wherever we can provide our support, our knowledge, our expertise in any which ways in what we do to other associations that are working on the same idea, pro bono, all our team members are encouraged to do that. So I think that's the other big thing that we try to do. Supporting smaller enterprises and helping them to kind of grow and be more strengthened by our knowledge and expertise. Work. No, I think my family, I would say, yeah, that definitely, as I keep saying, my son is God's gift to me, and my husband is my spine. Yeah. So for me, definitely family means a lot, including my siblings. So the extended family as well. I think that means a lot to me. Yes. Oh, and in terms of self-care, maybe the other one which I've not been done for a long time is dancing. And I love music, but no time whatsoever. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And in fact, my dad and me, even now we win competitions. We used to always dance, my dad and me. And very recently for a wedding also, not recently, before the pandemic, just before the pandemic, my dad and me won a prize. Oh my gosh, everybody calls me a hoarder, right? So I don't believe in wasting anything. I don't like wasting time. I don't like wasting things. And I don't like wasting people either. What I mean by that is I believe everybody, I spoke about transferable skills. I believe everybody can do something till whenever they choose to want to do, right? And so they should be given that opportunity. So we've had senior citizens, we've had acid survivors, we've had, divorcees, we've had single parents. And I believe everybody, in spite of their difficulties, can find a way to make themselves valuable. And so I have always tried to make sure that everybody gets a chance to do whatever they can do. I think I'm very creative in reusing things and recycling things. And as I said, whenever people finally want to find something which they can't find anywhere else, tend to end up finding it from me. So thanks to my hoarding app. That it's a one-horse race. That is definitely an advice I would tell any young girl. But the second is also that don't worry about pleasing everybody. It's never going to happen, no matter what. And I think I wrote this in my thing that, we say even the gods had enemies, right? Take any religion and they've always had an enemy, right? So it doesn't matter which religion you're talking about. So if the gods had enemies and couldn't satisfy everybody or get everybody on their side, then who are you and me, right? Obviously. So we are going to have people who will pull us down, okay? We are going to have problems and failures and challenges in our life. As long as we learn from it, just keep moving on. Just keep going. Well, mine is always never give up. What you said, unstoppable. For me, that is it. No matter what, and being positive. That's why I said positive lives, peaceful societies, right? I think the reason why I talk about positive lives and peaceful societies is an individual thinking positive is the first step, okay, towards a more fulfilling life, but not just for you, literally the people around you as well, right? Therefore leads to peaceful society. And what do I mean by peaceful society, or what do I mean by peace? is really not the esoteric meditative time. Not that I have anything against that. It is an important thing as well and can definitely contribute to people's well-being. But the peace I'm talking of is a much more practical thing about you being in an absence of conflict or violence, either with yourself, with people around you, between you and nature, and between nature and nature. That is what peaceful societies are about, right? And so for me, peace is the ultimate indicator of development. You can be as progressive as you like. Okay, there are many progressive societies, but they're definitely not peaceful. There are many prosperous societies. I mean, if you take Japan, right? Prosperous society, but it's still not peaceful, right? So how do you, and you can find places like Afghanistan, which is so serene and yet not peaceful. So peace is at the what should I say? The bottom line is that peace means absence of violence and conflict. Conflict will be there. Unfortunately, that's human nature. You may always find conflict in some way or the other. But if you can ensure that there's no violence in that conflict, then I think you're really ensuring peace, long-term peace.
Okay. And what's the full form of PicoNet? Sorry.
Yeah. So PICO is partnership, entrepreneurship, citizenship, and ownership, right?
Okay. You
This,
already said that.
yeah. So the concept is basically that people have to be entrepreneurial, organizations have to be entrepreneurial, right? In their thinking. It doesn't matter whether you're a for-profit or non-profit. It's about problem solving. So when you have a problem solving attitude or an approach, okay, then you're entrepreneur. So that's why entrepreneurship. But for entrepreneurs to really scale their activities, you need partners who provide resources. It can be in kind, it can be cash, as I said, right? Or financial. But even that's not enough. We know of enough of initiatives that are heavily funded and which fail. Why? Because you need the third element, which is citizenship, which is people on the ground who give traction to your ideas, who give traction to your solutions, right? Who accept your offerings. So unless you have that traction on the ground, it will not work. So you need citizens. And last but not the least, you need ownership where it is everybody owns it so that it takes it forward. If everybody does not own the idea, you will always have a certain amount of discrepancy in the results that you see. That is it. There are two very big instances or influences that I would say impact me in my professional life every time I'm down. Yeah. One is a couple who is both are wheelchair users, right? But every time I talk to them about anything that they need, okay, they will never ever ask for their personal. Even when I specifically say, look, what is it that you need? How can I help you first, right? They will always say, no, you know what? There is so and so person, they need this help. They need a wheelchair, they need a computer. Somebody is sick, they have a small baby, they need money for food. But they will never ask for themselves. And it's simply amazing. I have to force them and I have to make them specifically think of it. I mean, think about it, right? We always think about people as disabled. And yet here is a couple that is just enabling so many people's lives without a thought for themselves. So I think it is a wrong thing of us to think that only those who are supposedly able can contribute and people with disability cannot contribute. The second very big kind of, not role model, but definitely someone I kind of look at whenever things go down is Amitabh Bachchan. And this might sound like a cliche, but let me explain, right? I mean, it's not because of his acting, because that's of course something we all know. His prowess is unbelievable. But it's because of his resilience, right? He has been written off and almost on the verge of bankruptcy very, very publicly, right? And yet he bounced back unbelievably to a level that is again unbelievable. I mean, look at his success, right? There's no measure. And that only shows that no matter how much you may be in trouble or feel that you're finished or that, there is no hope, there is always hope. as long as you are willing to believe. And I think you have to believe in yourself. And I think that for me is really huge. It has been something that I constantly think about. And maybe one last line, which I think Narayan Murthy said this: I'm a 25-year overnight wonder. Okay? Which just shows that people always look and see the success. They don't see the years of hard work and sacrifices to reach where they are. And that is why I always say it's a one-horse race. You don't know somebody else's story, just focus on your own. But even in a marathon, ultimately you're trying to race with somebody else, right? My thing is that you don't race with anybody, even if you're in a race. Even I'm in a marathon, I will say how much better can I do than I did before, right? If my previous my previous timing was so and so, can I do better than that? Not say that I have to run better so that I win against somebody else. I think that's the only slight difference I bring in, because I've learned this. And like when I see some of the organizations that started with me, okay, or people who have done things similar to what we have tried to do, and today when they're not there, it's not that they've failed. I'm not trying to say that they have failed and we have succeeded. They've probably done something else they felt was more valuable for them or more of interest to them. But that doesn't make them a failure and make us a success. So by comparing me with them, I'm being stupid. My only success is comparing where I was before and where am I today. What was I doing before and what am I doing today? That's it.